How much protein do you actually need? If you've ever looked this up, you've probably seen the number 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. But what if I told you that number isn't the goal, it's the bare minimum to prevent a deficiency disease? It's not the optimal amount for a vibrant, strong, and long life. Welcome to The Better Habit, where we explore health and nutrition in a way that's realistic, sustainable, and actually works. Today, we're cutting through the confusion around protein to understand how much you really need to not just survive, but thrive. So let us start with that common recommendation: 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. For a person who weighs 150 pounds, or about 68 kilograms, that's around 54 grams of protein a day. To put that in perspective, that is roughly what you'd get from one chicken breast and a cup of Greek yogurt. Sounds reasonable, right? But here's the critical piece of information that gets left out. This guideline was established to prevent the most basic protein deficiency. It's the amount you need to make sure your body doesn't start breaking down its own tissues in a serious way. It was never intended to be the target for optimal health, muscle maintenance, or healthy aging. Think of it like this. The minimum speed on a highway might be 40 miles per hour. But that's not the speed you use to get where you're going efficiently. It's just enough to legally be on the road. So why does more protein matter? It comes down to a process called muscle protein synthesis. Imagine your muscles are like a brick wall. Every day, some of those bricks get old and need to be replaced. Muscle protein synthesis is the process of putting new bricks amino acids from the protein you eat into that wall. At the same time, another process called muscle protein breakdown is happening, where old bricks are removed. To keep your muscle wall strong, or even build it up, you need the rate of building to be equal to or greater than the rate of breakdown. When you don't eat enough protein, you don't have enough new bricks. Your body starts pulling more bricks out than it puts in, and over time, your wall gets weaker. This is especially important as we get older. Starting as early as our 30s, we naturally begin to lose muscle mass and strength. This age-related muscle loss is a condition called sarcopenia. You might not notice it at first, but over decades, it can have a huge impact. Less muscle means a slower metabolism, because muscle tissue is metabolically active, burns calories even when you're at rest. It means less strength for everyday activities like carrying groceries, playing with your kids, or getting up from a chair. It increases the risk of falls and fractures, which can be devastating for older adults. Sarcopenia isn't just about looking less toned. It's a major factor in our long-term health and independence. This is where protein intake becomes so crucial. Research has consistently shown that higher protein intake can significantly slow down, and in some cases even reverse, muscle loss, especially when combined with resistance exercise. The old guideline of 0.8 grams per kilogram just doesn't provide enough building blocks to effectively combat sarcopenia. So what's the new target? The scientific consensus is shifting. Multiple studies and expert panels are now recommending a much higher intake for optimal health and longevity. The sweet spot for most healthy adults seems to be around 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. For that same 150-pound person, that's 82 to 109 grams of protein per day. That's almost double the old recommendation. And for those who are very active or are specifically trying to build muscle, the recommendation can go even higher, up to 2.2 grams per kilogram. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't that much protein bad for your kidneys? This is one of the most persistent myths out there. For individuals with healthy, functioning kidneys, extensive research has shown that a high-protein diet is perfectly safe. The concern about kidneys comes from studies on people who already have pre-existing kidney disease. For them, a high protein load can be stressful. But for the general population, your kidneys are more than equipped to handle it. Think of it this way. You wouldn't tell someone with a broken leg not to walk, but that advice doesn't apply to someone with 2 healthy legs. Another benefit of a higher protein diet is its effect on satiety and body composition. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient. That means it helps you feel fuller for longer compared to fats and carbs. When you eat a protein-rich meal, you're less likely to snack on less nutritious foods between meals. This can be incredibly helpful for maintaining a healthy weight without feeling like you're constantly fighting hunger. It helps regulate your appetite naturally. This leads to a more stable metabolism. By preserving or building muscle mass, and by helping you manage your appetite, a higher protein intake supports a healthy metabolic rate. It's a key lever for long-term metabolic health, helping to manage blood sugar and reduce the risk of metabolic syndrome. But here is the thing, knowing you need more protein and actually getting it are two different things. Doubling your intake can feel daunting. So let's break it down into a simple, actionable habit. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Here's your first small experiment. Focus on your breakfast. So many of us start the day with a carb-heavy meal, cereal, toast, a pastry. This sets us up for a blood sugar spike and crash, and we miss a huge opportunity to get a head start on our protein goal. Your habit is to simply add a quality protein source to your first meal of the day. It doesn't have to be complicated. If you eat oatmeal, stir in a scoop of protein powder or a big spoonful of Greek yogurt. If you have toast, top it with 2 or 3 eggs instead of just butter or jam. You could even have a smoothie and make sure to add protein powder, yogurt, or cottage cheese. Starting your day with 20 to 30 grams of protein makes a huge difference. It sets a foundation that makes it so much easier to hit your daily target without having to eat a massive, protein-heavy dinner. The goal isn't perfection. It's about making a small shift that feels sustainable. Once you have your protein breakfast down, you can start thinking about lunch, dinner, and snacks. Look for simple swaps. Could you add chickpeas to your salad? Could you snack on a handful of edamame or a small piece of cheese instead of crackers? It's about these small, consistent choices. The key is to distribute your protein intake throughout the day. Our bodies can only use a certain amount of protein for muscle building at one time. So instead of trying to cram 80 grams of protein into one meal, aiming for about 25 to 40 grams per meal is a much more effective strategy for muscle protein synthesis. This steady supply of amino acids keeps the muscle building process switched on all day long. Remember, this isn't a diet. It's a long-term strategy for strength, vitality, and health span, the number of years you live in good health. Shifting your focus from the bare minimum to what is optimal is one of the most powerful things you can do for your future self. You're not just eating for today. You're building the body you want to live in for decades to come. If this helped you think differently about protein, please like the video and share it with someone you know who is also trying to build better habits. I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions in the comments below. What's your favorite way to get protein in at breakfast? Let's learn from each other. And don't forget to subscribe to The Better Habit for more simple, science-based ways to feel better every day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.